Welcome to Inland Empire Alive, bringing you issues, events, and perspectives from throughout San Bernardino and Riverside counties. I'm David Brady, and in today's show, I'll welcome Beth Burt, Executive Director of Autism Society Inland Empire, to talk about the group's mission and programs. That's today on Inland Empire Alive. Well, I am so happy to welcome my next guest. It is someone I've been looking forward to speaking with for quite a long time. Please welcome Beth Burt, Executive Director of Autism Society Inland Empire. Beth,
Hi.
Welcome to the program.
Hi, David. Thank you so much for having me.
So I want to go all the way back to the beginning, as I usually do. Talk to me about how autism first impacted your life.
It first impacted my life about 27 years ago. I have a son who is now 30 with autism. We didn't know it. It took us a year and a half to get diagnosed. 5 different doctors, lots of different diagnoses, including he's just a boy, he'll outgrow it. And then we got the diagnosis. And I tease people and
this
say,
was back when the diagnosis was rare. It was not as common.
Well, they thought it was rare, 1 in 10,000. But we also didn't have the internet. We didn't have phones. We didn't have computers. So all my reading was talking to other parents and books. There wasn't a lot of information out there then.
Well, I think that's important. It's books. There were very few books,
Right.
and there were very few people. It must have felt very lonely.
It was, but I was a tenacious woman.
Well, tell me, I want to hear more about that. So how did you go from being a mom of a child who has this, condition I need to suddenly learn all about, to being an advocate, to someone who is a leader?
Let me go back and tell you a little bit of what my life was like then, or our life was as a family. So my beautiful son, who I adore, would all of a sudden, I would say the switch would flip and he would rage for a year, almost an hour and a half. I had a 3-month-old son at the time. So this was a little boy who was kicking and spitting and screaming and biting and would throw toys at my other baby. Our life was completely out of control. I got to the point where I would have to put him in his room, and he didn't have a lock in his room, but I would shut the door and just be on my knees praying, help me, send me something, because I didn't know how to fix it. He was a picky eater, did not have a lot of functional language. I used to say he was brilliant because he could do the Lion King soliloquy for a half hour, but he couldn't ask for a cup of juice or say, "I love you, Mom." He had a lot of echolalia, which is repeating a lot of words, but nothing functional. So that was a huge motivator to change our lives because we were not functioning.
Well, how did you take that focus beyond your own family, and you want to help pay it forward? You want to help other children, other moms who are going through exactly what you were going through, but you thought it was just you?
I had a wonderful woman named Rose Palmer. And my husband at that point, he was the only one working, and he went to work and told one of his coworkers what was happening. And he said, "Hey, I think I know somebody at our church." And this wonderful woman spent an hour and a half on the phone with me and talked to me through, okay, call this doctor, ask for this is what you need to do. It changed our lives. And I said, "How could I ever repay you?" And she said, "Pay it forward, do it for another family." And it was the best feeling in the world to do it for another family, because we walk it, we live it, and we know what it means for somebody to take that time to help you through that next hurdle.
Well, I have to make a confession, and it feels weird to call it a confession, but I actually learned less than a year and a half ago that I'm autistic. And it was a giant shock. And I don't say that because I'm ashamed. I don't say that because there's anything wrong with being autistic, but it was so late in life to learn such a fundamental truth about myself. It's been hugely destabilizing. It's been great to finally understand, why I am the way I am, why my brain is the way it is. But it's been difficult to find out, oh, you were always different. You never fit in, and you kind of always will be that way. You just have to figure out how to manage it. And so it's been really challenging that, this is something, as you say, you've been living with for decades, and I had all of this land in my lap in a very short period of time. I didn't know I was disabled. It was so odd that everything changed and nothing changed all in an instant.
I can't imagine what that might feel like. I know during COVID, something that unexpectedly happened was we had this influx of adults who would call us looking for diagnosis information. So maybe we would get 1 or 2 a year, and all of a sudden we were getting 4 a week during COVID. So something happened, and I still can't tell you what it was, if it was that we had a quiet time to self-reflect, or people finally had time to look at it. But that's part of our neurodiverse, and that's one of the words that we use, not only just our autism community, but our neurodiverse community, which basically means...
Well, tell me what that means. For folks who don't know, it encompasses a lot of terms that people are familiar with.
Right. So neurodiverse, and I just learned this from one of our wonderful adults with autism, that basically means, you know, your brain is different. And it was developed by individuals with autism who are looking for a way to say, I don't necessarily want to say disabled, I don't necessarily want to say autism, I want to say differently able. And how can we explain that? So neurodiverse was the terminology they came up with. And it does encompass not only autism, but Tourette syndrome, learning disabilities, ADD, dyslexia, mental health. There's a lot of what we would call disorders that go under this umbrella. And there's a wonderful movement to say, look, you know, we just process the world differently, and shouldn't that be okay?
Talk to me about how you got involved with the organization. And again, how you went from just being a mom wanting to help her child to I want to learn about this and help the larger community.
So I always tell parents there's no such thing as just a mom, because one of the things you're doing is you're a case manager. You're the doctor, you're the nurse, you're the speech pathologist, you're the nutritionist, you're so many things. But I finally found the Autism Society, a wonderful couple, the Rosenbrooks, were running it at that time. It was a support group, and I was so nervous to go because, number one, I didn't want to go to a support group where everybody was crying about their problems. I didn't have time for that. And then I was very nervous because I had a very, very...
Did you see yourself as a leader?
No, I mean, I had worked for a while and I stayed at home. I wasn't planning on leading in this space. I was just trying to figure out what was going on. And I took my son and I'm like, I don't know, and because they had babysitting, and they're like, no, we can handle them. I'm like, no, you don't know my kid. They're like, we've got 2 on our own, and we've seen it all. And it was such a relief, that space, somebody to say, oh my gosh, I've seen it all. It's okay. This is a safe space. And that's something that our organization strives to give other parents, is that this is a safe space, free from judgment. Nobody's gonna, if your kid's on the floor falling out or tries to hit you or doesn't have the right words, nobody cares.
We understand.
We live it.
These things happen for a reason.
Exactly.
They're not random and scary. They are directly as a result of stimuli. They are in reaction to things. They are not mysteries once you take the time to understand the condition.
Exactly. And that is such a gift for parents. It seems so simple, but it's so true, just to give them a safe space that you are wanted, you are included, you are part of our community, and we're not going to kick you out.
I know that your organization has a lot of programs on a regular basis for lots of different audiences and age groups. Give me an idea of kind of the diversity of the programming that ASIE puts on.
So I haven't mentioned, autism is now being diagnosed in 1 in 22 children. So in the Inland Empire, we have over 19,000 children and adults with autism. And
who may not know it in many cases.
Some may not, and then another 55,000 family members. That's a lot of people, right? With a huge need of services, whether it's social recreation services, education services, learning about how to navigate the different systems. So we try to build programs that address the huge needs. We cover all of Riverside and San Bernardino County. We found that for some, virtual works great. For others, it doesn't. We need in person. So that's why we are currently offering over 20 programs a month.
Can you give me an idea of some of the types? Because I know some are fun and some are really oriented around just social and recreation, and some are about public policy and learning how to take advantage of services that you're entitled to.
Yeah, so we do have a wide swath of services. So we have art classes, and one of the things I'm most proud is that we have 2 individuals who started off as students in that class who are adults. One's on the spectrum and one has another disability, and they're the ones that are teaching the classes now. So that's also part of it, is that we're also looking for places to raise up our teens and adults, not only just to be the ones that take the services or be recipients, but in places of leadership and give themselves chance to practice for jobs and just leadership in general. So we have art classes, we have fun jump nights.
Bedtime stories?
Bedtime stories. We have support groups, especially for our teens and our adults. We have found that, especially at that age, that there's a need for, again, a safe space, not only just to go have fun, but to have some serious conversations sometimes.
Are there typically costs involved with the type of programs you put on?
We try to keep it low cost or free as much as
I know
possible.
you have a lot of days at water parks and fun splash zones. And
So we buy out the local water parks and maybe offer it $10 or $15 per person, a fraction at the cost. And then our 2 big fundraisers, our walk, hopefully cover the rest of those costs. But we know families are spending their monies on therapy and special foods and all kinds of other things. So we want it to be affordable for everybody.
That raises a good point. These programs aren't free to put on.
No, they're not.
So help me understand, how does your organization get its funding? Where is the need? Where can people help? Is there a need for volunteers? Is there a need for financial donations of goods and services?
Yes, yes, and yes. That's easy. So we always have a need for funding. We have to raise all the funds that we spend every year. We get grants.
So you're not funded by the government.
We are not funded by the government. We're not funded.
It's not a wealthy philanthropist writing you a grant.
Nope. If any are out there, feel free to donate. But we raise money, and that's why we have to be very careful about where our priorities are. Volunteers, we always need volunteers, and it's a wonderful opportunity for high school or college students to be exposed, because it's amazing that our medical doctors aren't exposed to the world of autism, or psychiatrists. So the more community members we can have that can come out and just see that they're kids, they're kids and families just trying to be kids and families, and it's okay.
Well, I know that a large part of what you do is around the idea of acceptance. It's no longer about awareness.
Right.
It's about acceptance. Talk to me about that distinction, that moving away from just being aware that this community exists, but accepting it is something very different.
Yes, we did that years before it was even popular. So awareness is, I have awareness that there's a table here, that I'm not doing anything about it. The acceptance is that action word. So now I've got to do something about it. Now I've got to think about it. And am I going to include people with autism in my type of events, or am I going to learn about it? We started last year what we called the Bubbles of Kindness campaign for elementary schools. And it's just simple, and it's not necessarily just autism, although we do it in April, which is our Autism Awareness and Acceptance Month. But the idea is just give kids, a little bubble wand and a little thing of bubbles, and go out on the playground and talk about it. Like, we're all different, and that's okay, and let's just be kind to one another.
In the time that you've been doing this work, not just, like you say, just a mom, but working to understand this and working to improve this community, how has the world's understanding and acceptance of neurodiversity changed over those decades?
I've seen a lot of progress.
There's hope.
Absolutely. There's always hope. And where there's not hope, we make hope. We're not just sitting there. We are very active in public policy and creating programs. So one of the examples is remote employment. Unfortunately, we have an 80% unemployment rate in our community. And I've been working in that space for years as my son was a teenager getting in. And the options that I saw weren't appropriate for my son or others that. So we created our own. So we've gotten funded by 2 different grants to do remote employment. Right now we have 12 individuals through job exploration, and give them the opportunity to say, hey, would I like to do customer service, or would I like to do web design? And give them an opportunity to do that, and then we match them at the end of this program. So far, we're still in the process, but 2 out of the 12 already have jobs, so I'm really proud of that.
Well, I think it's important that, there's keeping that dignity in mind, that I don't want the government to just send me a check so I can sit home and not work. I can contribute. I want to help. I want to do things. Match me with where there's a need. And I think too often people think, oh, you just want a handout so you don't have to work. No, I want to be useful. I want to contribute. I just don't know where those opportunities are.
And there's a lot of advocacy still needed. So years ago.
Well, where are the challenges? Like from where you sit in your perch, up high in a leadership position, where do you think the biggest challenges are today? There's been so much progress, but where are the challenges that still need to be addressed?
Well, let's talk about employment. So the federal government, and I'm grateful, has legislated that now everybody should have dignity of employment. That should be the very first choice. If that's something they choose not to do, that's okay, but that should still be their first choice. Years ago, I was at an employment meeting and somebody said, oh yes, people with autism will get jobs around the 4 Fs. And I raised my hand and I said, I'm sorry, I'm not sure what that means. She said, food, flowers, feces, and fertilizers. That's the jobs that we're preparing these young people for. I see you take a big deep breath. That's what I did. That's what I did. And I said, no, and there's nothing wrong with those jobs if that's something you want to do.
I volunteered at an animal shelter. So, when you say feces, sure, I clean up, cat, I love that. But if that's my only option.
Right. And that's what they were talking about is janitorial. So that was the only option that was being given. Food services, janitorial, landscaping, and flower arrangement. And again, nothing wrong with those jobs, but there should be other options depending on what other people are. So that mind shift is changing, but it's been slow, and it's because it's been mandated by the government to change.
Well, I want to say again, there are so many programs going on in your organization. I want to make sure we let people know where to find out more about them. The website is ieautism.org, and where can folks find you on social media?
We're same thing, Inland Empire Autism Society, or Autism Society Inland Empire. We're out there on all the social media handles.
And there is a need for volunteers, there's a need for donations, there's a need to get involved, be aware. Again, ieautism.org.
Yes, thank
Beth,
you.
thank you so much for being in the room. I would love to hear more from you, so please think about coming back sometime.
Oh, you were wonderful. Thank you so much, David.